There are attacks that strike loudly, and there are attacks that settle quietly. Some battles don't break you, they dull you. Bit by bit, without sound, without warning, something begins to cover your fire, your clarity, your brightness. Like dust landing on a mirror, your shine becomes dim. Your passion becomes faint. Your vision becomes blurry, and you don't even know when it started. This is not weakness, this is dust, spiritual dust. Invisible powder sent to reduce your glow, bury your strength, and cloak your potential. But tonight, the wind of God is rising. Every dust that settled on your destiny, every powder that dimmed your brightness, every haze that covered your glory shall be swept away by holy fire. There are seasons when you feel slower than before, yet nothing happened physically. Your motivation softens, your sharpness weakens, your spiritual senses become quiet. You wake up tired though you rested. You pray but feel muffled. You reach for purpose but feel distant. Something is dimming you, not destroying you, because the enemy knows he cannot break what God built, but he can try to bury what God released. Dust does not attack your strength. Dust attacks your shine. Dust attacks visibility. Dust attacks clarity. Dust attacks spiritual accuracy. Dust attacks your ability to rise with force. And tonight, every dust assigned to mute your brightness is being swept away. Spiritual dust operates through subtle deposits. A little disappointment here, a small discouragement there, a delayed breakthrough that makes your hope dry, a silent battle that makes your energy fade, a betrayal that leaves residue on your spirit, conversations that leave tiny layers of heaviness on your heart, thoughts that leave thin films of confusion on your mind. None of them break you, but all of them accumulate. Dust gathers silently until your confidence, once bright, becomes faint. Dust settles until your spiritual discernment loses its sharp edge. But the fire of God is coming like a broom of divine wind, sweeping every layer away. This dust is not physical. It is spiritual sediment, residue from battles you fought, remnants of cycles you survived, fragments of wars you didn't fully heal from, leftover particles from places you walked through emotionally, invisible powder from environments carrying heavy atmospheres. The enemy uses these dust particles to lower your brightness, because brightness attracts divine helpers, divine direction, and divine opportunities. When brightness drops, alignment drops. When brightness drops, vision drops. When brightness drops, momentum drops. That is why God is stepping in tonight, because heaven refuses to let you fade. Before dust settles on a destiny, it settles on a mind. It begins with tired thoughts, overthinking, quiet frustrations, emotional slowdowns, mental fog, weight without a source. And suddenly your decisions become slower. Your boldness becomes cautious. Your excitement becomes shallow. That is dust, not failure, not laziness, not spiritual collapse. Dust. And the God who breathes life is blowing every grain away. You were created to shine with spiritual clarity, but the enemy sent a powder to dim your edge. That powder was meant to slow your spiritual reactions, weaken your fire, and blur your direction. That powder was designed to make you lukewarm without realizing you were warming down. Many people fight demons, but they never fight dust. Dust is not dramatic. Dust is not loud. Dust builds in silence. That is why it goes unnoticed until brightness disappears. Tonight, God is exposing every microscopic assignment sent to hide your glow. As God sweeps away this dust, everything that dulled you will lose its grip. Your spirit will rise again. Your mind will sharpen again. Your prayer life will ignite again. Your hunger for destiny will rebuild again. Your inner vision will brighten again. Your atmosphere will clear again. Where dust settled, wind is now blowing. Where heaviness gathered, fire is now burning. Where clarity dimmed, light is now returning. The dust that covered your destiny will not survive the night. There are battles where the enemy knows he cannot steal your destiny, so he attempts to contaminate your atmosphere. He throws dust into the air around your life, hoping that the particles will land on your spirit and make you slow down. This dust enters through moments when your guard is tired, when your emotions feel stretched, when your soul carries unspoken burdens. It is the enemy's strategy to dim you gradually so you never notice the change. You wake up 1 month later and wonder why your passion is thin, why your joy is low, why your prayer feels distant. It is not that your fire died. It is that dust settled on its surface. And tonight, the breath of God is blowing through every corner of your life, lifting every dead particle off your destiny. Spiritual dust lands on people who carry great calling. The brighter the future, the greater the attempt to dull the shine. Dust is attracted to glory. Dust is attracted to rising stars. Dust is attracted to people carrying divine assignments. Wherever there is oil, there will be an attempt to bury it under powder. But what the enemy forgot is that oil rejects dust. Grace rejects contamination. Fire rejects dimness. When the holy wind blows, dust cannot remain. The same God who breathed life into Adam will breathe clarity into your vision again. Some dust comes from people, words spoken carelessly that settle on your confidence, opinions thrown at you that land on your self-belief, conversations designed to weaken your momentum. A single comment can sit on your heart like a grain of sand, and if not swept out, it becomes a layer that dims your joy. People drop emotional dust without knowing, and sometimes knowing. That is why the Spirit of God is sweeping your atmosphere, cleansing every emotional particle that tried to cling to your spirit. There is dust that comes from past disappointments. You survived the pain, but particles remained. You moved forward, but tiny fragments of the past still sat in the corners of your heart. Dust from old heartbreaks, dust from missed opportunities, dust from seasons where your expectations were delayed, dust from battles that ended, but their residue stayed. These particles attach themselves to your hope, making you second-guess tomorrow. But the one who heals the brokenhearted is releasing a wind that will wipe away every trace of what tried to remain. Sometimes, dust comes from spiritual inactivity, not because you don't love God, but because battles became heavy and your energy became divided. Dust settles quickest on things that sit still. A Bible you stopped opening, a dream you placed aside, a prophecy you stopped watering, a destiny instruction you delayed. Dust lands on what stops moving. But tonight, movement is returning. Your spirit is shaking itself awake. Your fire is stretching itself out. Your inner man is rising with force. Every area that became still is receiving divine wind. Dust also comes from environments whose atmosphere carries spiritual heaviness. Places where negativity floats. Homes filled with tension. Workplaces carrying silent resistance. Communities where hope is constantly drained. When you spend too long in these atmospheres, the dust tries to cling to you. You leave the place, but you carry the residue. Tonight, the Lord is washing the air around your life. He is cleansing your spiritual climate. He is purifying the environment of your future. You will no longer breathe in dust. You will breathe in destiny. There is a dust that comes from spiritual monitoring. Invisible watchers who observe your growth and attempt to dull it. They release tiny powders, discouragement, confusion, emotional dryness, mental fatigue. Not enough to break you, but enough to cloud you. These watchers operate through spiritual particles that settle on glory. But tonight, the watcher of Israel, who never sleeps nor slumbers, is sweeping every grain away. He is clearing the skies above your destiny. No spiritual observer will have access to your brightness again. When God begins to sweep dust away, everything that was dim begins to shine again. You start to feel strength in areas that were tired. You feel clarity where confusion lived. You feel direction where uncertainty grew. You feel hunger where numbness settled. You feel fire where coldness tried to stay. The dust that made your spirit slow is being pulled out of your atmosphere. The powder that tried to hide your glow is being burned away by divine intensity. You are being restored to your original brightness. There is a kind of dust designed to make you question yourself. It attaches itself to your confidence, your identity, your God-given boldness. Suddenly, you begin to doubt what you once knew clearly. You hesitate in places where you were once decisive. You shrink in moments where you were once fearless. This dust does not attack your destiny directly. It attacks the version of you required to walk into that destiny. But tonight, that identity-dimming dust is being swept out of your life. The real you, the bright you, the sharp you, the courageous you is rising again with clarity. Some dust settles on your prayer life, not by making you stop praying, but by making your prayers lose their fire. Your mouth can still speak words, but your spirit feels muted. The enemy knows that if he cannot silence you completely, he will try to cover the potency of your voice. Dust causes your prayers to sound familiar, mechanical, weak. But tonight, the wind of God is entering your prayer altar. Every powder reducing your spiritual intensity is being burned away. Your voice is returning with force. Your prayer mantle is being restored with power. This dust also lands on discernment is spiritual eyesight. And when dust hits it, your inner lens becomes cloudy. You begin to misread signals. You miss warnings. You sense things faintly instead of sharply. You overlook traps that once were obvious to you. You feel spiritually slow, spiritually distant, spiritually muffled. But God is wiping your lens tonight. The anointing that restores vision is flowing through your spirit. The fog is clearing. The haze is lifting. The dust is disappearing. You will see again with precision. There is dust that settles on destiny instructions. Assignments God once made clear suddenly feel difficult to follow. What you once pursued with excitement now feels heavy. Ideas lose their spark. Purpose loses its urgency. Destiny becomes a thought instead of a direction. That is dust, silent resistance designed to make you slow down your obedience. But tonight, the wind of heaven is blowing with force. Everything God told you to do, every plan he whispered, every assignment he planted is receiving fresh fire. Dust will not bury your obedience. Some dust comes from emotional exhaustion. You carry so much without screaming for help that particles of heaviness begin to settle invisibly. This exhaustion dust makes you function on low battery. You still move, but without life. You still give, but without joy. You still show up, but without spark. This is not your spirit failing. It is your soul carrying residue. Tonight, the God who restores souls is releasing a cleansing wind. Every emotional grain weighing you down is leaving. You will breathe again without heaviness. You will rise again without weight. Dust is also released by spiritual jealousy. When people observe your rising, some release invisible powders of negativity, not curses, not spells, but subtle spiritual particles that make your atmosphere heavy. Their envy becomes dust that tries to slow your shine. But God is sweeping your path. He is clearing your atmosphere from the remnants of jealousy. No one's hidden emotions will affect your brightness again. The glow God put on you will shine untouched. There is dust that comes from silent seasons when heaven seems quiet, when prayers feel unanswered, when God feels distant. This silence allows dust to gather on your heart, making you interpret delay as abandonment. But the silence of God is never the absence of God. It is preparation, and tonight, He is blowing away the dust that made you misread His stillness. You will recognize His voice again. You will understand His timing again. You will sense His presence again. The silence is ending. The dust is leaving. When dust is removed, identity stabilizes. When dust is removed, purpose strengthens. When dust is removed, courage returns. When dust is removed, clarity awakens. When dust is removed, spiritual sharpness intensifies. Tonight, the cleansing of your destiny has begun. The wind is already moving. The fire is already burning. The dust is already lifting. Every grain will be swept away. There are layers of dust that settle on a destiny through long-term disappointments. Not the loud heartbreaks, not the catastrophic losses, but the slow accumulation of waiting, hoping, trying, and seeing nothing shift. This kind of dust is dangerous because it builds through silence. You wake up one day and realize you are no longer expecting anything. Your faith becomes cautious. Your hope becomes diplomatic. Your belief becomes quiet. Dust has settled on your expectation. But tonight, expectation is rising again. God is blowing away every grain that made you afraid to hope boldly. Some dust comes from unspoken pain, the kind you never told anyone, the kind that drained you in silence, the kind that made you smile publicly yet crumble internally. When pain is not processed, it settles as dust on your spirit. You still function, but something inside you feels muted. You still show strength, but something inside feels tired. This unspoken pain becomes a layer that hides your true glow. But tonight, God is wiping those layers off your life. He's healing the part of you never explained, the part you thought no one noticed, the part you learned to ignore. His wind is sweeping every hidden heaviness away. There is dust that settles through wrong connections. People whose spirits carry confusion, heaviness, or stagnation can release dust into your atmosphere simply by proximity. They may not be evil, but their spiritual climate is unhealthy. When you stay around them too long, your brightness begins to fade. Your spiritual pace slows. Your inner clarity dims. That is dust transferred through association. Tonight, God is disconnecting you from every atmosphere that dims your spirit. He's separating your path from every environment that buries your glow. Your shine will no longer be affected by the company you keep. Some dust comes from spiritual fatigue, not because you are weak, but because you have fought too many battles alone. The enemy knows when you are tired, and he releases particles designed to land on your spirit while you are vulnerable. These grains make you feel spiritually slow, emotionally numb, mentally drained. But tonight, the helper of your soul is refreshing you. The strength of heaven is filling your inner man. What tired you will no longer limit you. What weakened you will no longer drain you. The dust of fatigue is being blown out of your life. Dust also settles on unfulfilled prophecies. When years pass and the promise remains silent, dust tries to settle on your belief. You begin to wonder if you misheard God, if the prophecy expired, or if the promise was never meant for you. This dust does not cancel the prophecy, it simply covers it until it looks distant. But the God who keeps his word is blowing the dust off every promise spoken over your life. Prophecies that looked forgotten are rising again. Destiny chapters you thought closed are opening again. His wind is uncovering what he wrote for you. There is dust from cycles of disappointment where every attempt to rise seemed to end the same way. These cycles create emotional residue, a tiny grain of discouragement after every try, a layer of frustration after every setback, a film of hesitation after every rejection. Over time, these grains form a blanket over your boldness. But tonight, heaven is tearing that blanket apart. Every cycle that dropped dust on your spirit is breaking. Every repetitive disappointment that became residue is being swept away. Your story will not repeat the same ending. Dust can also settle on your spiritual gifts. When your environment doesn't value your grace, when your voice is ignored, when your effort is overlooked, dust forms on your gifting. You still carry the gift, but the shine becomes faint. You still carry the calling, but the expression becomes quiet. Tonight, the wind of revival is touching your gifts. The dust that tried to hide your anointing is being removed. Your spiritual voice will not be muted. Your gifts will not stay buried. Your calling will break through with clarity. When dust leaves, everything becomes lighter. Your spirit becomes alert. Your vision becomes pure. Your atmosphere becomes bright. Your purpose feels alive again. This is the night God restores the shine you forgot you carried. The cleansing has begun. The wind is moving. The dust is lifting, and your destiny is returning to full brightness. There is a dust that lands on unfinished battles. When a war you were meant to win completely is left partially resolved, the remaining fragments turn into spiritual residue. This residue creates a sense of incompleteness. You feel like something is still hanging in the air. You feel restless without knowing why. You feel unsettled, though nothing is visibly wrong. This is dust from unresolved warfare. It lingers until clarity is restored. And tonight, that dust is leaving your life. God is finishing what was left halfway. He is closing what lingered. He is sealing what tried to remain open. Every unfinished battle is being swept clean by his wind. Some dust comes from emotional bruises, not wounds, but bruises. Wounds bleed, bruises don't. But bruises hurt in silence. These silent pains leave small particles in your spirit. A little mistrust, a little disappointment, a little caution, a little insecurity. Over time, the accumulation dims your confidence and dulls your inner stability. But the God who restores the soul is pressing his hand upon every bruise. His healing is reaching the places you learned to live with. The dust of old bruises is being wiped away, and your emotional strength is being renewed. Dust also settles on your spiritual authority. You carry power, but life's pressures can attempt to bury your sense of dominion. You speak with less certainty. You declare with less force. You feel smaller in battles you once commanded. This is dust, not loss of authority, but loss of awareness. The authority is still there, but hidden under particles of fear, pressure, and fatigue. Tonight, the breath of God is blowing on your authority. Your spiritual voice is being restored to its full weight. Every grain that tried to cover your dominion is being burned away. There is dust that comes from spiritual exchanges, moments when you poured too much into others and forgot to refill yourself. You gave advice, comfort, prayer, and strength, until particles of exhaustion landed on your spirit. You were strong for others so long that dust settled on your own fire. But tonight, God is refilling you. The wind that strengthens warriors is breathing into your lungs. The dust that came from overgiving is being swept away. You will not pour from emptiness again. Your strength is returning with fullness. Some dust enters through disappointment in yourself. When you make choices you regret or fail at assignments you believed you could handle, dust settles on your confidence. Not guilt, but residue. Not punishment, but heaviness. These particles attach themselves to your self-belief. But the God of mercy is blowing those grains out of your spirit. You will rise again without shame. You will move again without fear. You will believe again without hesitation. The dust of self-disappointment will not dim your future. Dust can also settle on divine timing. When things do not move at the speed you expected, frustration drops little grains on your patience. You begin to equate delay with denial. The waiting season becomes heavy. The path becomes blurry. Destiny feels distant. But tonight, God is clearing the dust from your timeline. He's removing every haze that distorted your perception of time. You will see his timing clearly again. You will walk with patience without frustration. You will understand his pace without fear. Dust settles on transitions too. When you are leaving one season and entering another, the in-between period can leave residue on your spirit. Uncertainty, restlessness, pressure. These particles attempt to distort your ability to move forward. But God is clearing the transition dust from your path. He is smoothing the shift. He is guiding your steps with clarity. You will not stumble between seasons. You will not carry residue into your next chapter. The dust of transition is leaving your life. Every time dust lifts, something inside you brightens. Your inner world opens. Your spiritual atmosphere sharpens. This cleansing is not casual. It is divine restoration. Tonight, the God who formed the winds is sweeping your destiny with intentional force. Nothing that settles on you will stay. Nothing that dimmed you will remain. Nothing that buried you will survive the night. The dust is lifting, and your brightness is returning. There is a dust that lands on dreams, not the visions you see at night, but the God-given desires planted deep inside you. Over time, life's pressures can release particles that settle over your dreams until they appear distant, unrealistic, or insignificant. The dream didn't die, but it became faint. The vision didn't disappear, but it became quiet. You stopped talking about it because dust covered its shine. But tonight, God is blowing the dust off every dormant dream. What once felt unreachable will feel alive again. What you thought expired is stirring. What you buried in silence is rising with new clarity. Some dust settles on passion. The fire you once carried for your calling slowly becomes overshadowed by exhaustion, routine, survival, and delays. Passion fades not because you lack purpose, but because the enemy released particles meant to weaken your drive. You start doing things mechanically instead of spiritually. You function without flame. You move without fire. But tonight, God is reigniting your passion. The dust covering your inner fire is being consumed. You will burn again with purity, focus, and strength. There is dust that enters through spiritual loneliness. When you feel like you carry burdens no one understands, dust settles on your heart. This dust doesn't break you. It isolates you internally. You become quiet even when surrounded by people. You smile but feel unseen. Your spirit becomes guarded. But tonight, the God who walks with the lonely is drawing you close. His wind is sweeping away every grain of isolation. You will sense his presence again in places where you felt alone. You will remember you were never abandoned. Dust also settles on consistency. When battles stretch too long, consistency becomes heavy. You start strong, but dust slowly lands on your discipline until it feels tiring to maintain. Prayer feels heavy. Study feels slow. Worship feels quiet. The enemy knows that if he can dull your consistency, he can weaken your spiritual rhythm. But tonight, God is reviving your consistency. He is strengthening your daily steps. He is empowering your spiritual routine. The dust that made discipline difficult is leaving your path. Some dust comes from spiritual comparison. When you see others rising faster or shining brighter, dust settles on your confidence. You begin to question your pace, your value, your journey. Comparison drops tiny grains that distort your sense of worth. But tonight, God is restoring your identity. He is reminding you that your journey has its own timing, its own grace, its own destiny. The dust of comparison is being blown away. You will walk your path with boldness, not insecurity. Dust settles on your inner peace, too. Small irritations, minor conflicts, hidden frustrations, and quiet disappointments accumulate until your peace becomes thin. Your mind feels unsettled. Your heart feels restless. Your spirit feels tense. Peace becomes a memory instead of a reality. But tonight, the Prince of Peace is sweeping your atmosphere. Every grain disturbing your inner calm is being removed. You will sleep with rest. You will think with clarity. You will move with stillness. There is dust that comes from spiritual interference, unseen forces attempting to dull your spiritual sensitivity. These particles aim to block your ability to hear God clearly or feel his nudges. You sense things faintly instead of strongly. You feel spiritually distant even though God is close. But tonight, the dust is clearing. Your spiritual senses are returning to full strength. Your inner hearing is being sharpened. Your spiritual instincts are being restored. Every interference that tried to mute God's voice in your life is being removed. When dust is removed from the soul, your inner atmosphere shifts. You feel lighter, stronger, clearer. Your emotions become steady. Your spirit becomes responsive. Your faith becomes bold. Your eyes become sharp. Tonight is not just cleansing. It is restoration. The wind of God is not gently blowing. It is sweeping with divine force. Every grain of dust, every invisible powder, every dulling substance is being lifted out of your destiny. Nothing that dimmed you will remain. There is dust that settles on long-awaited breakthroughs. When you stand at the edge of manifestation for too long, the atmosphere around your faith can begin to feel heavy. Hope becomes slower. Confidence becomes thinner. Expectation becomes tired. This is dust formed through prolonged waiting. It does not mean God forgot you. It means the enemy tried to dull your anticipation so you would stop preparing for what is coming. But tonight, God is blowing the dust off your breakthrough season. Your expectation will rise again. Your faith will sharpen again. Your spirit will stand tall again. What you have been waiting for is drawing near with clarity. Some dust comes from repeated spiritual attacks. Even when you survive them, the residue of constant warfare can settle on your emotions and spirit. You become alert but tired, strong but stretched, victorious but drained. The dust of battle fatigue is subtle but draining. But tonight, the God who gives rest to warriors is washing you clean. Every grain of exhaustion from past attacks is being lifted off your life. You will not walk into your next season tired. You will walk in with renewed strength. There is dust that settles on relationships God ordained, not because they are wrong, but because misunderstandings, delays, and emotional strain can release particles that distort connection. You start seeing people through the lens of dust, misinterpreting intentions, misreading actions, overthinking silence. This dust is spiritual and emotional. But tonight, God is clearing the air. He is restoring harmony where dust tried to bring confusion. He is purifying communication. He is sweeping away every grain that threatened unity. Dust can also settle on your gratitude. When life becomes repetitive or heavy, you forget the small victories God gave you. Dust lands on gratitude until your heart focuses more on what hasn't happened than what has. This dimming of gratitude invites discouragement, frustration, and emotional heaviness. Tonight, God is restoring a grateful spirit in you. He is clearing the haze that made you overlook blessings. Your eyes will open again to his goodness. Your heart will shine again with thanksgiving. Some dust lands on spiritual hunger. You do not lose your love for God, but your pursuit becomes quiet. Your hunger becomes shallow. Your desire for deeper encounters becomes faint. This dust is subtle but dangerous because it attempts to disconnect you from spiritual intensity. But tonight, God is reviving your hunger. The wind of His presence is clearing your inner altar. Your spirit will long for Him again. Your heart will burn again with pursuit. The dust that dulled your hunger is leaving completely. There is dust that settles on your inner voice, not the voice of God, the voice of you. The voice that says, you can rise, you can rebuild, you can overcome, you can win. Over time, life's challenges can drop particles on your self-belief until your inner voice becomes quiet. You begin to doubt your own strength. You begin to silence your own ideas. You begin to lower your own expectations. But tonight, God is sweeping every grain off your inner voice. You will hear yourself again, the strong you, the capable you, the anointed you, the destined you. Some dust enters through emotional clutter. Too many worries, too many responsibilities, too many burdens held at once. This clutter forms a haze around your peace and clarity. You begin to feel mentally full, but spiritually empty. But tonight, the God who calms storms is calming your inner world. He is removing the dust of overcrowded thoughts. He's restoring inner stillness. He's bringing order to your emotional landscape. When God sweeps dust away, new strength rises, new clarity appears, new brightness returns. Dust is temporary, but destiny is eternal. Dust is light, but glory is heavy. Dust is weak, but God's wind is powerful. Tonight, that wind is moving through your destiny with purpose, clearing, cleansing, restoring, reviving, and reawakening everything dust tried to bury. Your brightness is returning, and nothing will dim it again. There is a dust that settles on identity after repeated disappointments. When you've heard "not yet" too many times, the enemy sprinkles particles meant to make you question who you are. You begin to shrink internally, not because you are weak, but because dust tried to blind you from your true stature in Christ. This dust hides your spiritual authority, your divine value, your God-given identity. But tonight, the voice of God is blowing through your spirit. He is reminding you that dust does not define you. Delay does not define you. Trials do not define you. Your identity rests in what heaven declared over you. That declaration is being uncovered again. Some dust settles on inner joy. Joy is a spiritual glow, a brightness from within. Dust aims to dim that glow by releasing heaviness, irritations, or subtle sadness. Bit by bit, you feel your joy lowering without knowing why. But tonight, God is restoring joy that is not dependent on circumstances. He is sweeping away every emotional particle, blocking your inner gladness. A fresh river of joy is rising. Joy that outshines storms. Joy that cannot be dimmed by the enemy's powder. Joy that breaks every residue. There is dust that lands on your willpower. The drive to keep going. The decision to stand firm. The strength to push through. This dust attaches to your determination until your spirit feels conveniently tired. You begin to settle instead of fight. Accept instead of resist. But tonight, God is breathing His strength into your will. Your determination is coming alive. Your inner courage is rising. The dust weakening your willpower is leaving forever. Dust also settles on destiny connections. People sent by God to lift you, support you, or walk with you can become distant when dust distorts perception. Misunderstandings form where unity once lived. Silence forms where communication once flowed. This dust is spiritual interference. But tonight, God is clearing the atmosphere around your divine connections. Voices will reconnect. Assignments will align. Paths will join again where heaven intended unity. Every dust separating ordained relationships is being blown out. Some dust lands on your testimony, the evidence of what God did for you. When dust covers testimony, you forget how far you've come. You overlook victories you once celebrated. You lose sight of miracles you witnessed. Dust tries to rewrite your memory. But tonight, God is restoring your remembrance. You will see again the places where He raised you. You will remember the battles He won for you. Your testimony will shine again, and nothing will mute it. Dust can also settle on your future. When you have faced one storm after another, the enemy drops particles of fear that blur your vision of tomorrow. You begin to anticipate trouble instead of breakthrough. You brace for pain instead of expecting miracles. This dust is spiritual intimidation, but the God who holds your tomorrow is blowing that dust away. He is clearing your view. Your future is not dark. It is bright, ordered, and guarded. The dust of fear will not cloud your expectations again. There is dust that settles on the soul during spiritual silence. When God seems still, the enemy tries to sprinkle particles that make you interpret his silence as distance. But silence is not separation. Silence is strategy. God is sweeping every misconception away. You will sense him again. You will hear him again. You will feel him guiding you again. Every dust grain that distorted your spiritual perception is lifting. Tonight is not just a cleansing. It is a restoration of brightness. Every invisible powder sent to dull your destiny is being removed. Every dimness is being reversed. Every haze over your spirit is being blown away. You are stepping back into clarity, alignment, strength, and spiritual glow. Nothing that tried to bury your shine will survive the wind of God sweeping over you tonight. There is a dust that rises at the turning point of destiny. Just when heaven is aligning your next chapter, the enemy releases invisible particles meant to blur your final step. It comes as sudden tiredness, strange discouragement, emotional heaviness, or unexpected silence. This dust is strategic, designed to dim your brightness right before your moment opens. But tonight, the wind of God is sweeping through every corner of your destiny. Nothing will stand at the edge of your breakthrough. Every grain meant to delay your rising is being lifted by divine force. Some dust settles on the courage you once carried. Your voice becomes softer. Your declarations feel lighter. Your spiritual roar becomes a whisper, not because you lost authority, but because dust settled on your spirit. Dust attempts to make warriors quiet. Dust tries to bury the fire in your words. But the God who ignites altars is breathing on you now. Your voice is coming alive. Your declarations are regaining weight. Your spirit is being restored to full brightness. Every grain muting your authority is leaving your life tonight. There is dust that lands on the image of your future. Destiny requires a clear vision, and when dust settles on that inner image, everything looks smaller. You reduce your expectations. You shrink your dreams. You lower your faith. But tonight, the hand of God is wiping your spiritual mirror. What you once saw with clarity is returning. What your spirit once imagined without fear is rising again. The dust that blurred your destiny picture is lifting completely. Dust also hides inside transitions. When you shift from one season to another, the enemy releases particles designed to confuse your steps. You feel unsure, restless, uncertain, not because you are lost, but because dust is trying to distort your direction. But the one who orders your steps is clearing your path. Every transition is being purified. Every step is being illuminated. Every movement is being guided. No dust will confuse your shift. Some dust settles over your atmosphere, small frustrations, silent disappointments, hidden burdens, emotional clutter. These particles form a haze that weighs the heart and fogs the mind. But tonight, God is cleansing the air around you. Your inner climate is being washed. The heaviness is breaking. The spiritual air is clearing. You will breathe freely again. You will think sharply again. You will feel strength returning from within. Every dust grain that touched your confidence is leaving. Every layer that dulled your joy is dissolving. Every powder that dimmed your glow is being consumed by divine fire. Tonight is not a surface cleansing. It is a spiritual, deep purification. God is reaching the hidden corners of your destiny. He is sweeping away every residue that tried to bury your shine. You are being restored in clarity, brightness, focus, and spiritual intensity. And now, as this cleansing settles over your spirit, let this final word seal your heart. You are stepping into a season where nothing will dull you again. Every haze has lifted, every dimness has cleared, every invisible powder has burned away. The wind of God has moved, and your destiny is shining at full brightness. Walk forward with a renewed spirit, a sharpened vision, and a restored atmosphere. Welcome to Everlasting Solutions, where the Word of God becomes your everlasting victory. Stay protected, stay aligned, stay bright in the presence of God. Your clarity is restored, your glow is renewed, and your path is open. Tonight, the dust is gone, and you rise.